We moved to Metuchen from Boston in January of 1959, and probably the first time that I really felt a part of Metuchen was when I went to the library and Mrs. Lane had my card already out and knew who I was. And I expressed surprise. I said, you know, my goodness, how did you know who I was? And she said, oh, we know. And it's that kind of experience, which happens so often in Metuchen, that makes it warm and unique. That's Metuchen. I love it.
And concern of the residents of Metuchen for our community by attending a council meeting held at Borough Hall. In many other towns, I don't see this involvement on the part of their residents. I, of course, as the mayor of the community, many times meet with other mayors. And when I hear the problems that they have, and every community has problems, and we have many of our own, the one problem that many of them have that we don't have in this town is they can't find people to help them. They can't find people who are willing to work with them. There are plenty of people who are willing to complain. And in this town, there's no problem at all like that. In many communities where shopping centers have developed, the downtown business areas of the communities near those centers have deteriorated. In Metuchen, this has not taken place. The difference in Metuchen has been that the businesses in Metuchen have been service businesses. They're really out to perform a function in the community that makes them necessary to the residents.
I prefer shopping locally because I prefer to give my business to local merchants. And it's so nice for me to say to my children, please go down and get a pair of sneakers. And I know that Momex will fit them properly, and they will keep them under $2,000, which my kids will go for your biggest job down there because some sports figure is wearing them. And everything's taken care of. Just they treat the children with the same respect that they treat adults.
I think it's the nature of the people in business in Metuchen and the fact that they are willing to perform services and go out of their way to help the people in the community at fair prices, and that the people in Metuchen are of the type that acknowledge this kind of a service and accept it and are willing to pay a fair price for an outstanding service.
There's only 5 schools in the town. It's very easy to become involved with education in the country. The Girls' Education, for example, are people who are neighbors and friends. And it's a great feeling to know that if you do have a problem with the schools, if you aren't satisfied, you don't wait months, you don't send in letters. You go down Tuesday nights to the meetings and you sit there and talk. The kids, for example, if they have a problem, say at the high school level, they might send a committee down to the board. The board listens to them. They might make a decision in their favor, they might not. But the important thing is that the kids see government working. I think we have a real capsule of life that was before the 60s, reminiscent of when I grew up, possibly, where neighbors know neighbors and kids know parents as well as other kids, where you cannot walk down a street or walk up a street without seeing somebody that you know, somebody that you like, somebody whose future you're interested in. I love the feeling of roots for the children. And even though they sort of pull at the reins a bit and say there's nothing to do with Metuchen, I hated it, it's a small town, they all fly back at college vacation for one particular time. And they love it. They get together, and it's so easy to get together. And I love that kind of feeling. I think that it's very important to have roots, particularly in this kind of world. And I think Metuchen is a place that provides roots. I do have to know that there is a New York City 45 minutes away. I don't have to use it all the time, but I have to know it's there. I went on the Bicentennial House tour offered by the Historical Society this year. and enjoyed it enormously. The houses offered were the White Hills on the corner of Grove and Middlesex, the Sloans on Washington Place, the Loopers on Clive Street, the Scudlarks on Middlesex, and the Belwares on Hofer Court. I would be very hard put to say which house I enjoyed most. Each one has something particular about it that you say, oh, gee, I would love to have had a house like this, or I would like to live in a house like this. I would hope that they would do something like this other than bicentennial years so that the history of Metuchen can be kept alive in the minds of the people here. It's important and it's interesting. Kids generally feel comfortable in the Metuchen schools. In the neighborhood schools, such as Campbell, Moss, and Edgar, they start out with the feeling that a sister or a brother or a playmate or friend has preceded them, so the school is not unfamiliar. And then by the time they get to the Franklin school level, they're all together, the whole town, and now they know all of the kids in town. And that continues on right through high school. And that feeling of ease and comfort, because you are in familiar surroundings with familiar faces, I think enhances our educational system.
All of the children get to know each other, get to play with each other, get to understand each other, and grow up together, if you will, in the school system because it isn't so spread out. This certainly has, I believe, led to the atmosphere that we have in town. We in Metuchen can boast perhaps one of the finest recreation programs of any community our size. We have a wonderful summer recreation program in all of our playgrounds and organized activity for all of the young people in our community. We have fine tennis courts, and I think it was this facility, the facility of the courts, that has been responsible for the successful high school tennis teams that we've had and for the many fine players that have developed from Metuchen. We have a municipal pool. Pool that's available to all of the young people in our recreation program every day of the summer at no charge.
People are concerned about recreation in Metuchen, and it shows. Everybody in Metuchen has a playground near his home. It's a high point with young mothers. Having been one myself, I know that I could send the children there safely. There were no difficult streets to cross. In the summer, people supervising. There was always an older person around. If it wasn't myself, it was another mother. It was a great place for the children. The tennis courts in town dotted around when tennis became a big thing. And they're always active. It's a big selling point to me as a parent to be in a town that cares about things like that. The swimming pool was not always as popular as it is today. A lot of people were against the pool. A lot of people thought it would bring problems to the town. But it has proven to be one of the most important things in the town. It's attractive to look at. It's very useful. Senior citizens sit there for their meetings in the summer. Youngsters all over town learn to swim there. Young mothers, particularly, sit with their children in a comfortable, safe atmosphere. It's an absolute delight. And I think it's the one thing where even disbelievers came forward after it was settled and said, hey, I was wrong. The school is great. It's brought the town together. And it has. It's an absolute plus for Metuchen.
Although I've seen the people in Metuchen together at functions many times before, and I've always felt there was a feeling of camaraderie and friendship, I felt that there was a special feeling on that 4th of July day. And the reason that our parade was such a success on a day when there were so many other competitive events going on throughout the whole country, if you will, is the fact that we have a Bicentennial Commission who's been working for a year and a half, for close to 2 years, on the project for our Bicentennial celebration, and they did a marvelous job of organization. And again, who was the committee? It was volunteers in Metuchen who were willing to assume a responsibility, who went out and did their job. And so that the parade and the picnic and everything that we had was another example of the people in Metuchen doing things themselves because they care and because they want to be successful.
It's not like, I would imagine, a parade in New York where you're overwhelmed by the beautiful uniforms and, say, costumes or whatever, and the precision of the parade. Ours was certainly not as formal or as elegant, but we knew everybody, which is more than they do. Everybody seemed to be in the spirit of the thing. It seems as if there were no problems anywhere in town. Everybody was just delighted to be there. Everybody felt very patriotic. I would suppose it was very reminiscent of picnics in the early 1900s. Little differences disappear, and you find out what's really important, and that's the people you live with and what they contribute to your life and what you contribute to theirs.
I hope that we will see the development of our Senior Citizens Project, the renovation of our railroad station, some sincere interest in development of our downtown center, and successful attacking of our many traffic problems in Metuchen. We're not just interested in the things that we have to do, we're interested in the things that are going to keep Metuchen the kind of a place that we want to live, not only now, but in the future. I believe that it's this kind of involvement that is going to keep Metuchen in the vanguard. And unless we stop doing things like this, and unless we start becoming complacent and are willing to sit back, Metuchen's future has to be favorable.